All right, let's get into it. The Calgary Real Estate Board just released the mid-year review, and there's a lot going on with the Calgary real estate market, so I'll try to break it all down for you. So the big topics right now, we've obviously got tariffs, economic uncertainty, but we are still seeing a lot of people moving to Alberta. So there are pros and cons right now, and I'll get into everything as we go forward here. Now, if we take a look at the key economic indicators, current inflation 1.7%, WTI price $72 per barrel, which I think is quite respectable. Policy interest rate 2.75%, and RBC is predicting it to drop to 2.25% by the end of the year. And they say this might be the case to spur on the economy because there is some uncertainty and all the tariff talk. It's not healthy for our economy, so they're probably going to lower the rates to offset that. And the one thing that I'm looking out for is the Alberta net migration. You can see here, this is when COVID hit right over here, and nobody knew what was going to happen, but all of a sudden we just saw huge numbers coming into Alberta. And now for 2026, the projection is not quite as many. And this is happening at a time when we're seeing a lot more inventory come to the market. So more supply, but less demand. That should have an impact on pricing. Now we're seeing most of the new supply coming to the market in the condo and townhouse sector. So I think those sectors are going to be hit the hardest. Now let's briefly talk about the new construction and rental markets. So basically we're seeing a wave of new construction in the condo and the townhouse sectors in Calgary. And there are parts of the city where there's just a huge number of projects coming online, both rentals and new builds. And this is definitely driving down prices in the condo sector and townhouse sector. Not as many in the detached and duplex markets, but definitely like Southeast Calgary and Northeast Calgary, just a huge number of projects that are being built, driving down prices. And there's also competition with the rentals. A lot of people out there, they're on the fence between buying and renting. And some of these brand new rental buildings, you don't have to worry about condo fees or special assessments. It's a lot easier for some people, and they're being swayed to get into rentals versus buying. And this is further causing the inventory to build up. So my recommendation for buyers in the condo and the townhouse sector, I would just be a bit cautious. If you are buying in these markets, I would definitely plan to live there for a while because you don't want to be selling it after a year or so and be competing against brand new builds in the same area. So just be a bit cautious and plan for the long run. Now, if we look at the detached market, you can see a snapshot right here. The city center, just under $1 million on average. The West End, 1.009 million, most expensive part of Calgary. Then we've got Northwest Calgary, 811. Then the North, South, Southeast are kind of in the average range, 682 to 730, 740-ish. Then the most affordable part of Calgary, Northeast, 593 and 525 on the east side. Now, what we're seeing in layman's terms is that we're seeing more inventory in the detached market over 700,000, and then it's quite tight, and the seller's market under, like say, 600,000. That's very tight still. So we're seeing a bit of divergence, but this is still the most desirable parts of our housing market, the detached homes. Now, if we look at a snapshot of the city, which you can see right here, there's different regions of Calgary, and they don't perform all the same. So if you look at this little chart right here, the purple section, city center and the west side, is 2% or higher year over year price change. So these areas are still doing pretty good. And if we look at the northeast part of Calgary, you can see here the darker teal, year over year price change. They've been dropping more than 1% in northeast Calgary. And you'll find the Northeast across all product types has the biggest drops right now. And then the rest of Calgary is kind of flat between -1 to +1. So that's the detached sector. It's still pretty good. It's the most desirable sector to be in Calgary. It's just that the west side and the city center are performing the best at the moment. Now, if you look at the duplex market, it's performing, I would say, somewhat similar to the detached market, where the west side and the city center are performing the best, and the areas that are performing the worst would be north, northeast, and the east side of Calgary, and the rest are kind of flat. But overall, the semi-detached market is the smallest sector of our economy, and what I would say is that in the city center, you can find some fairly pricey duplexes that are brand new, and there's a bit more inventory in those luxury duplexes, and they're not selling quite as fast. But throughout the rest of Calgary, they're not priced as high, and they're actually selling quite quickly still. And we are still seeing some price growth in the duplex market. It's actually performing quite well. And it's a seller's market for the most part across the city in the duplex sector. And you can see here pricing is up 2.9% year over year. And if we look at the townhouse sector, this market used to be red hot. It was a hardcore seller's market for a couple of years, under 1 month of supply. But now things have really balanced out. And I would say it's turning into almost a buyer's market. It's still, I would say, a balanced market at this time, but it is changing. And what I would say about this sector is it really depends on your neighborhood when it comes to townhouses, because you can find townhouses across the entire city. And if you are looking to buy and you're in an area that has a lot of new builds, you'll probably see some declining prices if you're a buyer and you can pick a brand new home or one that's a few years old. So it depends on what area that you're in. There's less new builds in the city center, but there's a huge number of them coming online in, say, like the southeast. So it just depends on where you're at. So areas with more new builds expect to see falling prices as people compete with the newer homes. And areas that have good demand, but not as many new builds, like the city center, maybe the market will be a bit more balanced in those areas. Now let's talk about the apartment sector, and we are definitely in a buyer's market in the condo sector. There are a few reasons for it. Lots of brand new homes coming on the market, brand new condo buildings, and there's a huge number of rentals going up. And the rentals do affect the resale market because there are a lot of people who can be persuaded to rent longer versus buy. So less buyers that are entering the markets, and there's also less investors who are also buyers. So once investors see rent going down and more inventory, it kind of spooks them, and many of them will actually list their home or move to different markets. So it's a bit of a double whammy, and we are seeing that in the apartment sector. And you can see here the snapshot of falling prices. So the purple, the biggest declines in the northeast and the east side of Calgary. I would say it's flat to slightly negative in the city center, west side, and northwest. Again, this is very neighborhood specific. There are still parts of the west side where you will see almost positive numbers for the condo market. So it depends on your neighborhood. And then the rest of Calgary, -3% to 0%, the kind of the lighter blue. But overall, the condo market, we are in a bit of a downturn, a bit of a buyer's market now. And not the end of the world, it's just we're in a bit of a correction. There's a lot of new inventory coming to the market. So it will take some time to absorb this, but you can still definitely sell. You just have to be mindful of the pricing. You have to market it correctly. Just do everything right from start to finish, and you can still definitely sell a condo. It just won't be as easy as it used to be. And I'll briefly just give you a little bit about each of the surrounding towns here. So Canmore, months of supply 3.4, up 19% year over year. That's actually quite low compared to the other parts of Calgary and the surrounding areas. And the benchmark price almost 1.1 million. So I had a buyer recently call me from, I think it was somewhere in the States, and they wanted to move to Canmore. They didn't expect it to be that expensive. They thought it would be like $300,000. Not the case. Canmore is a very expensive town. Again, almost 1.1 million as an average price. And if we look at Cochrane, months of supply to 2.5 months, up 75% year over year. But still, 2.5 months is actually really good. And we're seeing it in the prices, up 5% year over year. So Cochrane is still doing pretty well. I would say 2.5 months is, borderline seller's market still. So they're doing quite well. Okotoks, months of supply, 1.8. So that's even better than Cochrane. Up 60% year over year, but still 1.8 months is hardly anything. And that's why we're seeing a 3% year over year increase in pricing. Let's go to Airdrie, 2.5 months of supply, which is pretty good. But this number is up 158% year over year. So this time last year, there's almost no inventory in Airdrie. And the pricing is somewhat flat, 0.8%, average price $541,000. Chestermere is an expensive town these days. Average price $705,280. Inventory 3.6. That's up almost 100% year over year. And the interesting thing about Chestermere is that it used to be just single-family homes around the lake. It was a lake town. And nowadays, you're seeing it grow so fast, and there's lots of condos and townhouses being developed. So I'd say maybe half of the sales nowadays are condos and townhouses. So it's just changing rapidly in the Chestermere area. And same thing on the east side of Calgary. I swear in the next 10 years, Chestermere and Calgary will be connected. They're just growing that fast. If you look at Strathmore, average price 439,180, 2.5 months of supply, and that is up 126% year over year. Now, I actually lived in Strathmore from grade 6 to grade 12. And if you are looking to move to the Calgary and the surrounding areas, this is like the most affordable town close to Calgary. And you can be in Strathmore to downtown Calgary in like, I don't know, like 45 minutes. And you can be from Strathmore to Calgary and the outskirts of Calgary on the east side in like half an hour. So it's not that far away. And if you are looking for affordability and a bit of a quieter pace of life, I would definitely check out Strathmore. And High River, I don't go that far south generally, so I don't know all that much about High River, to be honest. But 1.8 months of supply, so not many homes for sale in the area. That's up almost 50% year over year, and the benchmark price just under 500,000, which is up 5% year over year. So High River is still doing pretty good as well. Well, there you have it. That's my take on the Calgary real estate market mid-year review. Now, is it a good time to be a buyer or a seller? Now, that's a tough answer because not every part of Calgary is doing the same. It depends on your area, your product type, and the price range. And if you are thinking about making a move, buying, selling, or relocating, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to be a resource, and I can tell you what I think based on your situation and what you're trying to do, if you should be buying now or waiting. And I've also got some free resources for you in the pinned comment, a buyer's guide, seller's guide, and a relocation guide. And you can also check out some of the links where you can view properties, you can request a home evaluation. I'd love to help you out, and I will see you on the next video.